Here's a screencast on how to explain the meaning of digits and numbers up to 3 decimal places. So before we can start saying numbers like this or putting them in order, i.e. sequence, let's take a moment to consider what this word decimals means. This word here, it's very important in digits and 3 decimal places, is very important. So let's imagine we have one whole. So here is my one whole, one block of chocolate. Let's call it chocolate because it's just easy to work with. So one whole. But let's say there was 10 people and we needed to break up the chocolate into smaller pieces so every person got the same amount. So what we ended up doing is, rather than having a whole piece of chocolate, we would end up having what's called tenths. Well, we have tenths, and so you can see that here, and there's 10 pieces. Now each one of these is not one whole, so it's not one of these, but it's actually a tenth of it. So this is called tenths. Okay, tenths spelled like this. So for instance, if we had say we had one whole and then we had 3 tenths, the number would become, so we had 3 of these tenths here, so this one here, this one here, and this one here, that would become 1.3. But let's say with those tenths, with this one whole, that we actually had 100 people we needed to share it between. So then this would change again. So as you can see, we now have this here, and we've split our whole up into 100 different pieces. Or if you like, we've made each of these tenths here into 10 pieces. So this value here becomes a hundredth. Or if you like, 100 of these are what is needed to make one of these a whole. So that's the digit that goes in here. And then lastly, there's one more. And as you can see here, this has been really, each one of these here has been split into 10 pieces. So that actually means that the place value of this is what is called thousandths. And I'm running out of room on this here, thousandths. So when we read a number like this, what that means is that there's this number here, which is 1.313. So what this actually means is there's one whole and 3 tenths, 1 little hundredth, and 3 of these little thousandths there. Okay, so when we're reading numbers to 3 decimal places, what we know is the digit just to the right of the decimal point is a tenth. The digit that is 2 places to the right of the decimal point is a hundredth, and the digit that's 3 places away, or 3 digits, decimal places away from the decimal point, is the thousandths. In front of us here we have some digits, and we have some decimals to 3 decimal places. So we have 1.490, and we have 1.5, 1.399, and 0.99. So let's say I asked you this question here. How many tenths are in total in this number here? Now if you go back to what we read before, there's 4 in the tens column here. However, the question was how many tenths in total? Now you'll notice we've got one whole here. So that would mean in total there are 14 tenths, because if you remember, in one whole there are 10 tenths, and then there's 4 tenths here, makes 14 tenths. So in this number here, if we were to ask the exact same question, how many tenths are in total in this number here, there are 15. 5 here, and then there are 10 here, because that's a whole number. In this question here, this number here, How many tenths in total? There are 13. And in this number here, there are only 9. And the reason is there are no wholes in this number, so 9 tenths. Let's move on to the next thing. So in these set of numbers here, if I was to ask you how many hundredths are in total in this first number, now you'll note that hundredths is the second digit to the right of the decimal point. So in this number here, there's 109 hundredths. Because there are 9 here, there are none here, but you've noticed that there's a 1 whole. And 1 whole means exactly 100 hundredths. This number here, there are 324 hundredths. This number here, there are 631. So you can quickly see the pattern that emerges. If we were to go to the next step and say how many thousandths are in this number here, you'll notice there are 4,214 thousandths. Because there are 4 here, and there's 1 hundredth here, so that means that there's 10. Instead of 10,000, then here that means there's 200, and here that means there's 4 thousandths, so 4,214. And in this last number here, 17.316, there are 17,316 thousandths. Okay, and there's quite an easy pattern you can do, as you can see there, that often you just take the decimal point out and just work your way to the left. Let's go another step further. Let's say you were asked to put these numbers in order from smallest to largest. Now the steps to this is fairly simple. The first thing you need to do is check the whole numbers. Now you can see that 4 of the digits have 1 whole, but 1 digit doesn't. So automatically this number here, 0.999, is the smallest number. So that would be the smallest. Then the next step to do is to check which in the tens column has the smallest number. Now you'll notice here that we've got a 1.1 and a 0, a 0 and a 0. Now that automatically means that this number here is the largest number. And the reason is, if you can see that it's got no hundredths and no thousandths, but it's got 1 whole tenth in there, which automatically means it's got 1 whole and 1 tenth, makes it bigger than these other numbers that are here, makes it bigger than these ones. So that one's the largest. So then we're going to go to the next column, go to the hundredths to see which one has the largest. And you can see there's 9 hundredths in this number, 1 in this one, and none in this one. So this makes this number the second biggest. It makes this number the third biggest, and makes this one here the second smallest. So you're just working your way through that. Start from the left and work your way along.